Immune System Cure. And the second book right after that was called Healthy Immunity. And those two books are currently out of print. You can probably get old copies of them somewhere on Amazon, but they're going to be the foundation for this talk tonight. So the first thing we're going to do is learn what is our immune system. So the immune system, the largest immune organ we have is the skin. And the skin protects the coating of the internal body. The skin is also made up of that tube that goes from your mouth to your butt. So what's going on in your digestive system often shows up on your skin. But the skin is basically a barrier of protection for the internal body. Your thymus is a gland that sits right behind that curved breastbone. So if you find that curved breastbone in the center of your chest, there's a little trick you can do. You can sort of pound your thymus, and this is a way to stimulate the thymus gland. When babies are born, they have a huge thymus, and the thymus is a major component of the immune system in children. And as we age, our thymus shrinks, but T cells are made in there, and those are a kind of immune cell. Then we have our tonsils and our adenoids, because of course, a lot of the invaders that we're exposed to them because we swallow them or we eat them. So there's this literally a place in the body through the tonsils and the adenoids where this is where invaders are distinguished for destruction. Then we have our spleen, which is a big filtering organ. Excuse me. Then we have lymph glands, and everybody knows lymph glands when you get sick and you have a cold. And the next thing you know, you've got these big lymph glands in your neck. That's actually your immune system responding, trying to create more immune cells to destroy off the virus or whatever has invaded the body. And then we have bone marrow, and the bone marrow is where B cells are produced in the body. So this is your internal army, and your immune system is doing its job of seeking, recognizing, and destroying invaders every minute of the day. And think about it, when you think about the immune system, 70% of your immune system sits in your digestive tract, and that's because we eat so many invaders. There are things that are constantly that we're consuming orally that the body has to deal with. So there's several types of immunity. We have passive immunity, and this is the immunity you're born with. And we're born with this. We borrow it from our mom as we receive antibodies through the placenta and her breast milk. But this immunity is temporary until our full immune system develops as we're exposed to infection. So this is a really important point. Our children, our babies, they're not born with a fully functioning immune system. Every time they get a cold or a flu, or they're exposed to some kind of bugs or dirt, this is how their immune system develops. So we've learned that things like dirt, eating dirt, being exposed to pets and animals, these are all good things because they help to develop a strong immune system. And when we talk about the gut, that's going to become even more apparent. Then we have this innate immunity, which I just talked about the skin as being part of that. These are our natural barriers, things like our tears, our saliva, vaginal secretion, sweat. These are all part of our immune system as well, because they contain immune cells that engulf and digest invaders, things like macrophages. And I'm going to show you what one of those looks like. Then we have acquired immunity. So that's basically exactly what it means. Every time you get sick, your body develops antibodies. And when those antibodies are produced, this is how we then have memory. And so we have cellular immunity as well, which is a special type of immunity that is involved when we get things like cancer. When the bad guys or the invaders are allowed to get inside your cells, then the immune system has specialized cells that go after the internal invaders. So this is basically the different types of immune function that we have in the body. I mentioned a bit earlier about macrophages, and these macrophages we call big eating cells, and they literally engulf and destroy invaders. And one thing I want you to know, that 1 teaspoon of white sugar will shut off these macrophages for up to 5 hours. So think about that. Every time that you have sugar consumption, you've really put your immune system to sleep for several hours. What are the signs of immune dysfunction? Frequent colds and flu, herpes outbreaks, cold sores, Digestive complaints, everything from IBS, Crohn's, gas, bloating, constipation. And for a lot of conditions now, they realize, for example, with Parkinson's, that often people will have, a lot of digestive complaints for years before they develop conditions like Parkinson's. And that's because we now know that the immune system, basically 70% of it lives in the gut. And so when you start having gut problems, this means you're also having immune problems as well. Allergies and asthma, a chronic runny nose. And of course, right now we're heading into that spring allergy season. So everybody's immune system's a bit ramped up with all the pollen and the molds that are out there. We're going to talk about autoimmune diseases. Candida yeast infections or vaginal infections is another sign of immune dysfunction. Painful, swollen joints. And I'm going to talk about inflammation in general, because it's a big component of not only the immune system, but also the digestive tract. All the skin disorders, psoriasis, eczema, acne, rosacea, these are all telling you that your immune system is not happy. Inflammatory disorders like irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, arthritis, and osteoporosis are other signs of immune dysfunction. HPV warts, those can be found on the genitals, the throat, and the skin. Even depression and recurring miscarriages and infertility can be signs of immune dysfunction. So that's a pretty extensive list of things that are telling you that your immune system is not working well. So why is our immune system letting us down? We have inadequate nutrition. We're eating way too much processed, packaged, sugar-laden foods. Stress, a lack of sleep also plays a big role. Very virulent viruses, we've just experienced that. New types of bacteria, especially bacteria that are becoming very resistant. Toxic overload. For example, our children receive 35% of their lifetime toxic load of environmental pollutants by the age of 5. And if you want to go to a really interesting website, go to EWG.org. It's not a .com, it's a .org. It stands for the Environmental Working Group. And they're going to release their annual Dirty Dozen Foods. And they've done work where they've shown that commercially produced strawberries have so many pesticides in them that a child under 5 should not consume one. So this is another reason for us to eat organic, wild, free range whenever we can. 1 in 6 bacterial infections are antibiotic resistant now. The germs have learned how to beat the drugs. Streptomycin and tetracycline, both common antibiotics, are sprayed on produce. And when I found this stat about how many tons of streptomycin and tetracycline are sprayed on, say, lettuce and things like that, this creates bacterial resistance to the drugs. All of the hand sanitizers that are full of antibacterial agents are also quite harmful, not only to our digestive system, our microbiome, but also our immune system as well. And depression, sadness, loneliness contribute to immunity. And when I start to talk about the gut, you'll learn that maybe depression, sadness, and loneliness are all associated with the microbiome, the gut bacteria. And here's another thing. We are too clean. Dirt is good. And we now know that pets and dogs and exposure to lots of different organisms in the environment is a good thing for our immune system. And it's good for our digestive system as well. So I want to tell you what inflammation is, because it is so prevalent and it's associated with a lot of the conditions I'm going to talk to you about tonight. So inflammation is the immune system's first response against injury or invaders. So what does that mean? If you're out running and you slip and you sprain your ankle is going to get red, hot, painful, and swollen. That is inflammation you can see. And that inflammation forces you to sit in a chair, put ice on it, and allow it to heal. But we also have inflammation going on inside the body that we can't see. And that inflammation is associated with a whole host of very serious health conditions. We need inflammation on the short term. So inflammation is a very important response to deal with injury or invaders, to clean up debris in the body, to attack invaders. But the problem is when it becomes long-term and chronic, then we end up with things like severe joint and tissue damage, and damage to many other systems in the body, like the heart, the brain, the gut, the immune system, and the bones. And so we're going to talk about that interconnection with the digestive system as well. So the ending itis, so when you see a word like arthritis or thyroiditis or colitis or bronchitis or mastitis, the itis on the end means inflammation. So arthritis is inflammation of the joints. Gastritis is inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract. Sinusitis is inflammation in your sinuses. And you've now learned that inflammation is a good response by the immune system when it's short term, but when it's long term, then we get a whole host of these conditions I'm going to tell you about here. For example, heart disease. We know that 50% of people who have a heart attack have perfectly normal cholesterol and blood pressure. Those people have elevated inflammation and a marker in the blood called CRP, which is a blood test you can also have called a highly specific CRP test. And CRP is something that you would have tested in your blood to see how much inflammation you have going on in the body. Gingivitis. So this is when your gums get red and they bleed and you end up with gum disease. It's almost, people who have gingivitis are almost 5 times more likely to have heart disease. Asthma and allergies are another sign of inflammation gone bad. Fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, anybody who's got joint pain, osteoporosis, skin problems like eczema. These are all signs of inflammation gone bad. And inflammation is often seriously increased in autoimmune conditions. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So what happens when the immune system, autoimmunity or autoimmune diseases, is when the immune system gets confused, and instead of attacking a virus or a bacteria, it actually attacks and turns on the body itself. And the interesting thing is that nearly 80% of those people afflicted with autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, scleroderma are women. And so they believe there is a hormone connection between autoimmune diseases and women. Of course, we've got a lot of hormone fluctuations that go on. Autoimmune diseases can be mild or they can be very damaging. People with rheumatoid arthritis, the immune system can be so devastating that it will attack the joint until it causes dislocation. People with Crohn's disease will end up with their gastrointestinal tract being attacked by the immune system. People with colitis, the same thing. So we have to really calm down the immune system, not boost it, and really look after our digestive tract, which we're going to talk about shortly. It's believed that these autoimmune diseases may be initiated by a prior viral or bacterial infection. So you had a virus, the body killed it off, but the immune system believes it's still there. So it's still attacking the tissue that the virus may have been associated with. Genetics increase the risk, but they don't cause the condition. And we know it is directly related to leaky gut and toxic pesticide overload as well. That's why we're having a conversation tonight about the immune system and the gut. So here's what happens when your immune system is out of balance. So when your immune system tips over, so we want to have a nice balanced, strong immune system, an immune system that is seeking, recognizing, and destroying cancer and infections, an immune system that is looking after not becoming overactive. So what causes this? We have too much stress, and when we're under too much stress and we're exposed to too many toxins and environmental pollutants or environmental factors, then what happens is our cortisol levels go up. And when that happens, our DHEA, which is a very important hormone for your immune system, drops. And when this happens, when cortisol, your stress hormone, goes up and DHEA drops, we end up with an increased risk. While the immune system becomes overactive, we get allergies, we get arthritis, chronic inflammation, autoimmune disorders. On the flip side, DHEA is your anti-aging hormone. So when cortisol goes up and DHEA drops, we are not able to fight cancer as well. We get chronic infections like colds, flus, TB, warts, herpes, increased aging. And we end up with this inflammatory process going on in the body. And this is the reason why you will never hear me tell you to boost your immune system. We always want to balance the immune system. We want to keep it in a nice, even keel so it can do its job without becoming overactive and creating problems, especially if you're on this call tonight because you have gut problems. So we want to have this immune system harmony because that reduces inflammation, controls autoimmune diseases, makes your immune system nice and strong so it can protect you from viruses and bacteria and other things that we're exposed to all day long. So what do? Well, the first thing is we eat more fruits and vegetables. And I cannot stress this enough. 70% of your immune system's in the gut, and your gut bacteria. So there are over 1 million gut bacteria, good ones, bad ones. And those bacteria are telling all kinds of things in your body what to do. They don't just sit there and battle each other. They actually are talking to other sections of your body all day long. So, when we eat more fruits and vegetables, we actually make more good food for the good bacteria in the gut. And vegetable fiber provides prebiotics. That's the food for the probiotics, and probiotic foods are essential. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The other thing is, I often ask people, are you happy? 95% of your happy hormone called serotonin is made in your small intestine, 95%. And then the gut microbiota, they actually spread it to other parts of the body. And so negative moods, anger, fear, disgust, shame, and sadness have all been shown to increase inflammation and can lead to chronic pain. Unresolved negative emotions can cause immunological disturbances, weaken your immune system, and cause frequent bouts of illness. Sleep is incredibly important. So you've got to have decent sleep to have strong immunity. And on my social media, I've done a whole sleep program. So if you want to flip through Facebook and Instagram, and my social media is under Lorna Vanderhaeghe. So while we sleep, the immune system makes antibodies, and these antibodies remember the virus you saw 5 years ago, and they also lower cortisol. And less sleep or poor sleep, more inflammation, and you end up in this vicious cycle. So we're going to talk about what we can do. And just to reiterate the fact that stress and elevated cortisol are so dangerous for the body, they actually cause the immune system to send out a whole bunch of really negative immune factors. But more importantly, it decreases your DHEA, which is a very powerful anti-aging hormone. And also what this does is suppresses your natural killer cell activity. So we get more inflammation. We aren't able to fight viruses and bacteria as well. We end up with increased risk of autoimmune diseases where the immune system is confused and is attacking the body. We get exhausted adrenal glands, which is a nightmare for women because this is our backup hormone system after our ovaries take a much needed rest at menopause. Also, when you have all this stress and cortisol, it disrupts the permeability in your digestive tract. And this is when you start to get gas and burping and bloating, especially bloating, and what we call leaky gut syndrome. And then that disrupts your good to bad bacteria. So then all of a sudden the bad bacteria start to overtake the good guys in your digestive tract. We get liver toxicity, and we get a lot more allergies. So stress reduction is key. I absolutely love the Calm app. So if you go to the App Store, you can download the Calm app. And if you have TELUS, they actually give you the Calm app for free when you get monthly TELUS points, which is pretty cool because that app is just awesome. And even things like deep breathing exercises make a huge difference in lowering your cortisol levels. So there is this gut-brain immune connection. You know, we've been talking about the brain inside your digestive tract. I think it's more than that. It's your gut is talking to your brain and your immune system, the three of them together. And if you think about how the body operates, you know, determined by your dietary habits, what you eat, your lifestyle, your exposure when you were pregnant in your mom, when your mom was pregnant with you, or exposure as a baby to different types of good bacteria and lifestyle factors. And then, of course, your genetic, your immunity, and your hormones. And they all have a powerful role to play in what kind of bugs, what kind of bacteria that you have living in your digestive system. And this is why you want to have a very wide diversity of different microbiota in your gut. That's what you want to have. You want to have a lot of different ones. So eating the same food every day is not a good thing. We want to actually have variety because this will create a much stronger gut microbiota. And then the gut talks to the brain and the immune system, and it is involved in determining things such as multiple sclerosis, things like hardening of the arteries, pain, migraines, anxiety, and depression, autism spectrum disorder. They now know there is a direct connection to the gut microbiota in the mom while she's pregnant and in the offspring after they're born. We also now know that Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and ALS are also associated with what is going on in our digestive tract. So almost twice as many women suffer from digestive health issues on a weekly basis compared to men. And 62% of people worldwide suffer from digestive complaints such as constipation, indigestion, or diarrhea. And the stat says at least once per year. I would say it's probably once a month. 95% of your serotonin, which I talked about earlier, serotonin is your happy hormone. It has a major influence on your moods and sleep and happiness and just basic joy in your life. And again, 70% of your immune system is located in your digestive system. So we know that microbiome disruption, so this is the good and the bad bacteria in your gut, or the diversity of the bacteria in your gut, are associated with all of these conditions, which I've already talked about, things like depression. You know, who would have thought that depression actually has to do with your microbiome? And, you know, when have you ever gone to the doctor and said, you know, I'm feeling so depressed, and they want to give you an antidepressant when they should be saying, eat fermented food, eat yogurt, eat more vegetables, chew your food until it's mush, don't drink alcohol, don't consume sugar, you know, those kind of things. And it may actually become that simple. They've been doing fecal transplants in people where they've been able to, in 95% of those suffering with C. difficile, which is an infection in the digestive system that causes chronic diarrhea, they do these fecal transplant and they have a 90% remission, meaning it's gone, they no longer have it. So the intestinal flora, the microbes that live inside your intestines, they influence your health in beneficial and harmful ways. So those microbes in the gut are involved in immunity. They also are involved in teaching the immune system to make antibodies. Antibodies are what you want to make to remember the chicken pox that you had, to remember the measles you had. That's what we make antibodies to, viruses and bacteria and things that we've been exposed to. The digestive tract is also involved. Those bacteria are making things like B vitamins and vitamin K. Those bacteria in the gut are also involved in whether or not you can absorb calcium or iron. And those bacteria in your gut are involved in metabolism, whether or not your body can digest the food properly and use it for fuel. And on the flip side, they now know that the bacteria in your gut can make you overweight or obese. They can cause tons of inflammation, and the bacteria in your gut are associated with autism in children as well. So they were doing studies in rats and mice where they were able to do fecal transplants from thin mice into overweight mice, and the overweight mice lost weight, and they flipped it around and they did fecal transplants of overweight mice into thin mice, and the thin mice gained weight. So this is why it is so incredibly important to get your gut functioning properly. So what can we expect after I tell you what to do for your gut? Better moods, hormone balance, reduce inflammation and pain, a stronger immune system, more energy, clearer skin, clear brain, no brain fog, reduced seasonal allergies, a lower risk of all diseases, improved cognitive performance, less anxiety and depression. And that is a big one. And I experienced a terrible bout of anxiety for several months in 2017. And when I look back now, after doing all this research around anxiety and depression and the gut, I had a whole change go on with my digestive system at the time. And I messed up my microbiome, which then created this anxiety cycle. The digestive tract is so important for absorbing all your critical nutrients. So this is what's going to happen after we get your gut problem solved. So fiber is important. And it's incredible how many people tell me who have gut problems that they can't eat vegetables. Well, fibers, we have soluble fibers and insoluble fibers. First, I'm going to tell you how important fiber is. So what fiber does is it's involved in the digestion and absorption of nutrients and immunity. So when you have enough fiber in your digestive tract, these things work better. Also, you create a whole host of new microbiota, so the good guys. You also create something called short chain fatty acids. And these are created when you eat food through the fermentation process that goes on in your gut. Those short chain fatty acids are also found in fermented foods that you eat. And so what do we want to consume in regards to fiber? So we can buy fibers such as guar fiber, which does not cause digestive upset for people who tell me they can't eat vegetables. But I would really like you to start eating a variety of organic vegetables, organic fruits, fermented foods, nuts and seeds, and oats. And you can puree them. You can get now things like blender bites at Costco and throw them into your shakes. You can cook fruits and vegetables so that they are easier for you to digest. And here is the really important thing. There is no garburator in your stomach. You have to chew your food until it's mush. And this process of chewing creates saliva and other good bacteria that are involved in the digestion problem, the digestive system. So let's talk about prebiotics and probiotics because they're very different. And prebiotics are really a special form of undigestible plant fiber. And that's why it's so important that you eat things like blueberries and that you have lots of variety with vegetables in your diet. And these prebiotics are undigestible plant fibers that act as food for the good bacteria in your gut. So literally the prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. What are probiotics? They are live, active microorganisms that when consumed in adequate amounts, provide health benefits to the person who ate them. So that's really important. So they're live, active microorganisms. And we'll go back to the prebiotic side. The powder form of prebiotics can survive heat, cold, acid, and they reach the very back, the hind gut. So if there's anybody on the talk tonight who has SIBO, which is a very, very challenging digestive problem to treat, you want to eat something like guar fiber, which will help to enhance the prebiotics in your digestive tract. Prebiotics also perform their role by nourishing the good bacteria that live in the intestines. With probiotics, they're more fragile than the powdered form of prebiotics. They're vulnerable to heat, so we don't heat them. They may be killed over time. So sometimes when you buy probiotics in a capsule, it'll tell you that there's, 150 billion organisms. Well, that's because they start dying. I tend to like the probiotics like BB536 that are stable. So if you're looking for a really good encapsulated probiotic, the product is called BB536. I also love BioK because then you're going to get the live probiotics, and they do a very good job with their probiotics. They even make little tubs of BioK that you can drink. The probiotics fight the harmful bacteria species in your digestive tract. So in order to have a healthy digestive tract, you have to have prebiotics and probiotics. And how do you get prebiotics? You get them from chewing and eating fruits and vegetables, oats, things like that. You can also take them in a powder form in the form of guar fiber. And then probiotics, we find those in things like probiotic enriched yogurts. You can find them in that as well. So the functions of the probiotics, they prevent pathogenic or dangerous bacteria from growing. They regulate everything from the absorption of your minerals and water. They help with the digestion of carbohydrates and protein. They normalize cholesterol levels. They are involved in producing vitamin K, vitamin B12, thiamine, folic acid, and biotin. They also strengthen the immune system. So they have a huge component on getting your immune system healthy. And it makes sense because 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. So I'm going to tell you the nutrients that I recommend that you take that are not only going to help your digestive system, but they're going to get your immune system working properly as well. And one of the nutrients that I strongly recommend, I kind of call it the daily multivitamin for your immune system. It's called Moducare. And way back in 1998, I wrote a book called The Immune System Cure. And I had the great fortune to go and meet the researchers who had been researching Moducare for decades. And they had been looking at how Moducare worked directly in the immune system to balance the immune system. So bring that overactive side of the immune system down while enhancing the underactive side. And what it does is it controls inflammation, it lowers cortisol, and increases DHEA. There is virtually nothing else out there in the health food store that will bring your DHEA levels up like Moducare will. It controls allergies. They just finished doing a clinical trial in children. They have a chewable for kids. They have capsules for adults. You can also open the capsules up and put them in your kids' food if you want. Moducare is involved in treating things like HIV and HPV and herpes and other respiratory syndromes. They did research in men who had benign prostatic hypertrophy, which is an inflammation of the prostate. They've done research in rheumatoid arthritis. They've done research in marathon runners for colds and flus. But literally, this product is to get your immune system working properly. And if you have gut problems, you definitely need to be taking Moducare every day. If you're the person who suffers with seasonal allergies, you want to take Moducare every day so that you don't get seasonal allergies. And I used to be terribly allergic to the cottonwoods that bloom in Vancouver in May. And since I've been on Moducare for a couple of decades now, I don't have any allergies to cottonwood. And it was so bad I couldn't even see. I'd have to wear sunglasses and my eyes and nose would run for the full 2 to 3 weeks that the cottonwoods were blooming. If you have cat allergies, it works exceptionally well for cat and dog allergies also. Vitamin D3. I think by this point, every Canadian should know that they need to take vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is made on our skin from sunshine. And because we live in the Northern Hemisphere and don't get much sun between October and April, we absolutely have to take vitamin D3 every day. It works on both your innate and your adaptive immune system. It decreases the ability of viruses to replicate. Vitamin D3 is the only known preventer. It's a powerful preventer of things like colon cancer, and women need to take it as well to reduce their risk of breast cancer. Vitamin D3 fights microbes. It regulates inflammation. It also has been shown to reduce cytokine storms in COVID patients. It makes macrophages. Remember that big eating cell I showed you at the beginning, devour invaders better. It also enhances glutathione in the body, which is a great detoxifier. And so how much do you take? Well, kids should have 1,000 IUs every day. Thankfully, Health Canada changed the daily dose for adults to 2,500 IUs per day. So in the summer, when you're getting sunshine, I would take 2,500 IUs a day. In the winter, you need 5,000 IUs per day. If you have autoimmune disorders or multiple sclerosis, you would be taking much more vitamin D3 than that, and your doctor would prescribe it for you. Zinc is another nutrient that is so important for immune cell activations, and 300 reactions in the body requires zinc. So even a tiny amount of zinc, like 5 milligrams that you'd find in a multivitamin, it is so important to make the intestinal barrier in your gut function properly. So if anyone who is on this call who has colitis or Crohn's or gas or bloating or burping or constipation or diarrhea, you need to be taking a good multivitamin with minerals that contain zinc. And zinc is really the immune system nutrient. It's a mineral for the immune system. It gets your natural killer cells and your T cells working. It's awesome for healthy skin. It also is an antibacterial mineral, and it regenerates the thymus. So remember, as I said, as we get older, our thymus gland starts to shrivel and shrink up. We don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that we have enough nutrients. The other nutrient that is so important to the gut and the immune system is iron. And you might have remembered earlier on, I said, if you don't have the right probiotics or good bacteria in your gut, you're not going to absorb your iron properly. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of people who may be taking iron supplements, but just not absorbing them properly. So getting your digestive system to work is important. I want to say that iron deficiency is the most common nutrient deficiency in children and adults. And if you were iron deficient when you were pregnant, your baby is 100% iron deficient when they're born. And in kids who are picky eaters, it's very challenging to get their iron levels up. In November 2021 research, they found low iron reduces the action of T cells, which are crucial for destroying infections. And T cells are needed in large amounts of iron. T cells require large amounts of iron. And if iron is scarce, the mitochondria, so the brain of the T cell, can't make energy, and they aren't able to fight viruses and other infectious agents. This is why kids, especially who have low iron, continually get colds and flu. People with low iron do not make antibodies properly, so your immune system can't make an antibody, which means that you're not protected from getting the same virus over and over and over again. We should be getting 20 milligrams of iron from our diet every day. We are not. We're getting about 8 milligrams. And with the huge shift to plant-based protein diets, we are seeing dramatic declines in the amount of iron that people are consuming. And so I think that people should take iron supplements, and you would take 10 milligrams of elemental iron per day, which is a very small amount. And this is especially for kids, for women, for the elderly, for vegetarians, for vegans, and for athletes. So basically everyone except for the old guys. The rest of us really need to be taking adequate iron. And, for the women who are on the call, you can take a good prenatal multivitamin that contains iron. And my favorite iron is iron pyrophosphate. So make sure you look for micronized, microencapsulated iron pyrophosphate. And look at your kids, pull their little eyelids down. If that part under the eyeball is not bright red, if it's pink, pale pink, or white, they're iron deficient. And remember, they need a lot more nutrients than we do. They are growing. Vitamin C is another one that is so important. Only 9% of Canadians get adequate levels of vitamin C. That is shocking when I read that stat again. And vitamin C stops your viruses from replicating. Vitamin C is antibacterial. Vitamin C tells the immune system to destroy cancer. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. It makes this powerful agent called glutathione, which is a detoxifier for the body. It also controls overactive immune function. So what is the best kind of vitamin C to buy? You want to buy vitamin C. So if you go to the label of the vitamin C and it says ascorbates or ascorbic acid, that just means vitamin C. If you see a vitamin C that says magnesium ascorbate, it's not magnesium. It's vitamin C ascorbate that has been buffered with magnesium so it's easier on your tummy. Potassium ascorbate is the same thing. The ascorbate is the vitamin C, and they buffered it with potassium for better absorption. The same thing with calcium ascorbate. If you see calcium ascorbate, it's not a calcium supplement, it's a vitamin C supplement. And you want 1,000 milligrams 3 times per day if you've got some kind of viral infection. Vitamin C can be taken to bowel tolerance, and what that means is you take enough vitamin C to cause diarrhea, and then you know how much that dose is, say 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 milligrams, and then you back off. But that's what vitamin C to bowel tolerance means. Another really super powerful nutrient for the digestive tract, for the immune system, is quercetin. And I really like the phytosome quercetin. So that one has got a lot of excellent clinical research, and it inhibits overactive immune function. It's been researched for SARS-CoV-19. It improves the gut microbiome, which helps control systemic inflammation. So again, here we go. If you're that person with diarrhea, with colitis, with Crohn's, with constipation, with diarrhea, with bloating, then you definitely want to make sure that you're taking quercetin. It can lower blood pressure in people who are taking over 500 milligrams a day for 8 weeks. In women who took 500 milligrams a day for 8 weeks, we were able to improve their rheumatoid arthritis symptoms. If you have PCOS, it has been found and researched in that. It also makes those big eating immune cells destroy and devour invaders. It's just an amazing supplement that doesn't get enough conversation. Fermented foods, these are very important. So fermented foods or beverages that are produced by controlled microbial growth. And, you know, fermentation has been going on for thousands of years. Fermented dairy products have certain health benefits as well. So let's talk about fermented foods and what those are. Things like kombucha. Make sure the kombucha you buy is sugar-free. A lot of them are loaded with sugar. Kefir, miso, sauerkraut, apple cider vinegar, kimchi, lactic acid fermented yogurts. Anything that is fermented will help to bring diversity to your digestive system. And I love sauerkraut so much. I buy the lactic acid fermented sauerkraut from Choices, and I eat a tablespoon of that every day. And I can tell you, you just know your digestive system is loving it. So what do fermented foods do? They improve the ability to digest lactose, which is found in dairy products. They're for weight management, improve bone health. They improve blood pressure. They reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. There's even work that's shown that they reduce the risk of colon cancer. But ultimately, what fermented foods do is give you diversity in that microbiome. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning. We've really got to have a lot of different bacteria in our gut. And if you eat, traditional commercially produced foods, you are not going to have good diversity in your digestive tract. So here's my daily immune and gut supplement program in case you want to write it down. We're also going to send out this talk to everybody who's on it tonight as well. So Moducare, and this is for the whole family. So you will take it, your kids can take it, and you do 3 capsules per day. if you're an adult, and you do 3 chewable tablets if you're a child, and they taste yummy. They're kind of a grape flavor and there's no sugar in them. Remember, sugar is not good for your immune system, nor is it good for your gut. You want a good multivitamin that contains zinc, selenium, and magnesium. And for the women that are on the call, you might want to look for a good prenatal that contains micronized and microencapsulated iron pyrophosphate. And you want 10 milligrams a day for adults. Vitamin D3, kids get 1,000 IUs a day and adults get 2,500 to 5,000 IUs a day. And vitamin C up to 3,000 milligrams a day for adults. And then the probiotics that I love, BB536 and BioK. And the prebiotic I like is sun fiber, which is a guar fiber. And then remember, eat vegetables. And if vegetables give you bloating, because a lot of people that will be listening to this webinar are here because they have digestive complaints, the best thing to do is cook the vegetables and start small and work your way up to eating, salads or raw vegetables. It doesn't matter if they're cooked or raw. We want to get vegetables into you. Frozen vegetables have been found to be just as good. For example, frozen peas are loaded with nutrients because they're the seed for the pea. And so they have lots of very important ingredients in them. You want to consume fruits like blueberries, apples, cranberries. All the berries are just superfoods. Stay away from the melons. They aren't so great for people who have digestive issues. Eat the fermented foods. Make sure you get lots of good probiotics. And here's some other tips. If you've got digestive complaints, do not drink liquids with your meal. Chew your food until it is absolute mush. Sit down when you eat. Start with a small plate of food. We don't want to overwhelm the digestive system. Soups are awesome. Make big pots of homemade soup with lots of vegetables and different types of chicken and other ingredients in them. And really focus on diversity in your diet. Free range, wild, organic, whenever you can. And for those of you who want to stay in touch with me, my email is lorna@lornahealth.com. You can go to my website at lornahealth.com and sign up for my online newsletter. You can connect with me on social media at Facebook and Instagram. And since I sold my company, I now have my own at Lorna Vanderhaeghe. So if you're looking for me personally, that's where you want to go. For Moducare's research, because they have a ton of research, go to moducare.com and check it out. And I'm going to put back, so while I'm going to move it back to here for people who may want to be writing down what immune and gut supplements. And I know that Choices has Moducare on sale right now. I know that they also have iron pyrophosphate that's micronized and microencapsulated on sale. And they are so awesome that they give out that gift certificate for $10, which is just such a wonderful gift that they do. I'm going to take some questions now, and because I can't see your questions because I'm on a different platform than you, Dion is going to read me some of your questions.
Thank you. So just remember, if you want to ask questions, that you'll need to sign in to a YouTube account to ask through the live chat. So let's see here. We so far just have one question that's come in. The question reads, if I supplement with zinc, when should I start thinking about supplementing with copper?
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. If you were going to take higher doses of zinc, then you should take copper right out of the gate. This is the reason why I really recommend a good multivitamin with minerals, because it'll have an adequate amount of zinc, because you don't need a lot. It'll have an adequate amount of zinc, and it'll have the other cofactors present. Or it'll have a low enough dose of zinc that you're going to get an immune response, but not so much that you could knock your zinc copper balance out. The other thing is, most people in North America have more copper than zinc. So it takes quite a long time for you to ever have that kind of imbalance anyways.
Thank you. So far, that's the only question
Okay.
that's come in.
Okay, that's
So
good.
again, if they do have questions that come up, maybe they're not watching live and they're a little bit behind, they can direct them to you, Lorna.
Yes, absolutely. If you have questions, just go to Lorna at lornahealth.com. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter online at lornahealth.com as well. And follow me on social media because I answer questions there also. So thank you very much. And thank you to Choices for sponsoring this talk tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for all the information. There's just so much there. Please, everyone, stay tuned. You will receive an email link shortly if you did sign up to attend tonight. We're going to ask you a few questions. It's just a quick survey. Actually, one more question came in. Do you mind
Okay.
answering it, Lorna?
Yeah.
It says, are probiotics that do not come with a requirement for refrigeration going to contain live organisms?
Oh, this is a good question. Well, it really depends. You have to kind of know which are the bacterias, which are the organisms that are shelf stable, which is the reason why I mentioned the BB536 probiotic, because it is shelf stable and they've done 107 clinical trials to show that it works even when it sits on the shelf. Most probiotics that are live probiotics that the manufacturers are very aware that they have a certain shelf life, that they require special care, meaning they have to be refrigerated. They can't be in a hot environment. The label will very clearly tell you to refrigerate it. It'll probably be sold in a refrigerated area, and you'll know. So this is the reason why I like the BB536 though, is because what you bought when you bought it off the shelf, the number of organisms that are on the label, those organisms will still be there 3 years later. And I think that's important because we really want to get all of the benefits of the probiotics. So making sure that you get a really top quality probiotic that lasts, that has survivability long enough for you to get the benefit.
Right. A couple more questions. This one says, what about juicing as a way to get more fruits and veggies? What are your thoughts
Well,
there?
here's the thing. If you're going to juice, you're not going to eat all the fiber. And so, we used to juice when our kids were little, and then I took all the fiber from that was left over and I'd make muffins and cookies, and I froze fiber left over from our juicer in ice cube trays, and everybody got it mixed in everything from popsicles to shakes. I mean, because the whole point is to get adequate amounts of the fiber. It is the fiber that is in the fruits and vegetables that is creating the food and creating the diversity in your digestive tract. So juicing is fine. Remember, if you're juicing a lot of fruits, that's a lot of calories and a lot of sugar. It's healthier than consuming other types of sugar, but it's still a lot of sugar. So you want to consume that fiber. This is the reason why I love things like the blender bites or like the shake mixes, because you can have spinach ground up in your shake along with cauliflower, and you're not even going to taste it. And it's a great way to get more fruits and vegetables into your diet.
Thank you. I love that with cauliflower.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, it is. And you can't even tell it's in there.
No, and you can buy frozen cauliflower and throw it in your blender along with your protein powder. And I open up all my nutrients in there, pour in my fatty acids, and create a really yummy concoction with a lot of vegetables in it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Next question. What about taking a calcium supplement?
Oh, I love this question. So people who've been following me for the last couple of decades know that I've never been a fan of calcium supplements. And, you really need to have adequate vitamin K2, which is made in your gut from fermenting foods and from lots of fruits and vegetables, in order to absorb the calcium that's found in other foods. But really, if you want to create strong bones and have adequate function that you would get from a calcium supplement, I would take a product called choline stabilized orthosilicic acid. And choline stabilized orthosilicic acid, which is sold at Choices, is a precursor to collagen. And they've done clinical research where they showed a 2% increase in bone density in the lumbar spine in 1 year based on DEXA in people with osteopenia and osteoporosis. And they also have done research for nails, hair, and skin. But really, the secret to nice, strong bones is collagen, 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 collagen. And think about this, you know, why do women develop osteoporosis so badly in the first 5 years after menopause? It's not that they're losing calcium. It's that they're losing collagen. And women lose 30% of their collagen in the first 5 years following menopause. And your bones are full of collagen. So if you're going to take a calcium supplement, it should be in your multivitamin with minerals. So you're just getting enough. And calcium should be taken with vitamin K2 and vitamin D3 and some magnesium. So it's always nice to have them all together. But if you really want to do your bones a favor, you want to take choline stabilized orthosilicic acid every day. And I believe the research is so good that if you took that from the time you were a teenager until you died, you would not develop osteoporosis.
Thank you. Next question was, can we take all these supplements together?
Yes. So the ones that I put on this immune and gut supplement program, remember, you know, the more healthy foods we eat, the better off we're going to be as well. So that's important. And a lot of these, you can get them in a multivitamin. So zinc, selenium, magnesium, you can get in a good multivitamin. You know, if you also would get vitamin D3 and vitamin C in a good multivitamin, you just may not get enough for an immune gut repair kind of program. And but yes, you can take this entire group of nutrients that I have here together. If you're on blood thinning medication, then you shouldn't take anything without your doctor's recommendation. And if you're on medications, you should take all of your nutrients 2 to 3 hours away from the drugs.
Thank you. And then the final question for the evening is, it's worded, if I make green tea kombucha that requires honey to feed the SCOBY, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, first off, congratulations that you're making this at home. That's really exciting. And, you know, if you look at some of the really good kombuchas out there, they're using like a little bit of kiwi juice, or you've got to give the SCOBY something, like it's got to be fed. And so a little bit of that. But, you know, the problem comes in when we buy yogurt that's got the fruit sugar glop on the bottom of it. That's not what you want. You want to limit your sugar consumption if you want to have a healthy digestive tract.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Lorna. Please stay tuned for the email. That's a quick survey, and we want to get your mailing address, and that's because we're physically going to send you that nutrition buck, which is $10 off if you spend $50 or more in our store. And we're really excited at Choices right now. Our nutrition department is able to offer nutrition tours again, so you can sign up through that on our website. We'll also include a link in that email that's going to come out shortly. Thank you so much for being here, Lorna.